Grand finals of the ESL Open Cup Korea. We've got ourselves a PvZ between two big names. In the top right-hand side of Eternal Empire for map number 1, our red Protoss is Stats. Representing the Afrika Freaks, has not played in any of these ESL Open Cups until now. Played an amazing semi-final against Special. If you didn't see that, go check it out. It was really awesome. As in the bottom left-hand side, the blue Zerg player from Brave Star Gaming is Scarlett. She just took down Zest 2-0 to get into the finals. And this is a very early Pylon Scout probe from Stats, even before Pylon Scout because it's a larger map. So Scarlett will not get a hatchery on the natural, will be blocked, and will have to go to the third hatch location instead to get us going. Of course, if you guys are watching this one on YouTube, hoping that we can get this one uploaded, hoping it's a good series, because I know there's not been a lot of PvZ uploads recently, then of course do consider hitting that like button, and obviously maybe comment down below. Let me know what you think of the matches. Complain about Zerg a little bit, because that's what everybody loves to do. Well, it depends. I guess if Protoss win, then probably we'll be complaining about Protoss, because it'll be the cool thing to do for the day. So get in the comments, start complaining right now. Don't let anyone beat you to it, guys. And don't forget, you can subscribe as well and see when we upload more videos. We upload a video here on the YouTube channel every day. As you do see, the couple of drones just popping up from Scarlett, and obviously that third hatchery location taken up by the first hatch of the game. Just going to be fairly standard. Obviously, it's, you know, that location over here is not so great, but Stats does commit the early probe to get that block. That is successful. We'll see what Stats maybe does to try and take advantage of that. So we'll have a little bit of a watch for that as the Cyber Core coming up to being about halfway done. The Overlord of Scarlet continuing to the top right, and that will get up to this high ground here. As the Nexus on the natural. Just building up quite comfortably too. Two queens building. Ling speed starting. And the gas of Scarlet is going to be pulled out of. So she's going to pull completely out of gas. Just the Ling speed into a lot more minerals from here. She's going to 23 drones. There's no Ling flood or anything. And yeah, I guess just looking to get the natural hatchery up in the fairly near future. Then of course, mostly all eyes on Stats, because Stats should be in control of this game for the first 4 or 5 minutes in terms of making the decisions, having the map control. Here's this Adept coming out, for example. And so all eyes on Stats to see what he wants to do. Opens Adept into Stalker. Already went Warp Gate, so it's not going to be a Stargate at this stage. It should just be a Twilight Council. That, or we could maybe see just a Robo. I mean, he's on 200 gas before making a decision. He's built something. Twilight Council and the Robo in sync. So I imagine this will not be a Resonating Glaives opening, but more so a Dark Shrine and a Archon drop opening, or Dark Templar drop, I guess we call it, and then they morph into Archons as a follow-up. So we'll see that from Stats. And that's obviously one of these builds which has been in the meta for such a long time, and it definitely has its moments where people do it way more often, and it definitely comes in and out of popularity, but right now, it is absolutely getting to be a lot more popular. It's still mixed in with a lot of glaive openers and a lot of Stargate openers. In fact, I'd say, oh, it is going to be glaives. Okay. Well, let me talk about that. Let me just finish my point. But the point is, we're actually probably going to see a really good... we're seeing right now in PvZ like a really good mix of strategies. You know, it's not just Adepts now. It's not just going to be like DTs and Archon drops. But yeah, this is going to be glaives, which kind of makes me feel like this is a bit late. You know, if you're going into glaives, you generally want to start it as soon as possible. I mean, let's just see how the timing works out here. Maybe this is something which I've just missed picking up on my end, but this Warp Prism's going to pop, already move across the map. Glaives, 50 seconds away next to Adepts. It's not going to be hugely off, but I feel like you are going to have 8 Adepts and glaives not quite done. Maybe it's just the way he's going to Chrono Boost it out. Also a possibility as well is plenty of Lings on the way from Scarlet, so she's going to be... This has become a popular thing lately as well, where you actually make a lot more Lings against this initially and start to build Roaches a bit later. So that's been a bit of a better, you know, a bit of a different way to basically approach fighting Adepts. Yeah, 8 Adepts and glaives is like 10 seconds away. You could argue if Scarlet like jumped on this right away. It's going to work out. So I guess the difference here is fairly... Well, the difference, there's basically no difference, right? The glaives is done before you really take a fight. Maybe if Scarlet was more active on the map, she could have found a fight without glaives, but I think that's about it. So maybe a few seconds late, but not to the point where it's making a difference on the push. Okay, well, Adepts already shading through toward the natural expansion, so the Adepts will go over there as the 9 roaches in production. The Adepts are going to cancel their shade and just going to be seeing our pylon from Stats finishing up on the natural here. So getting that pylon finished up, Adepts already getting rid of a creep tumor, a second creep tumor, and a third creep tumor as well going down. Our Adepts will continue forward and just going to be seeing our spine crawler poking away at the Adepts already. So the Adepts taking some extra damage with the Immortal on the way on the natural. Obviously plenty of Adepts, and Scarlett will just be kept back then, but she's equal-ish on worker count. This is where Stats is going to start taking the third base, and this is where Scarlett does need to think about adding more drones on rather than just continuing to produce units, unless she is just going to go all out across the map and get aggressive, which she will not. Extra drones do now start. And Queen back over the left side, Lings Roaches over the left side as well. Queen took some damage, a transfusion drops. A lot of Adepts just sitting out the front as you see the +1 attack and the blink still coming through. And the roach speed on that roach run. Queen doesn't quite go down. The Lings will move into the main base and again looking for a chance to grab those Adepts. The roach speed still building from Scarlett and just going to be having the spine crawler. He's also going to relocate back across to the top side. Scarlett's Adepts again shade up into the main. With the army around the right, +1 attack. Blink continuing through, the Immortal in production. 2 more gates already building here as the Lings and the Roaches will come forward, and Adepts from Stats have to be a little bit cautious. One Adept does go down already. I'm just going to be seeing our Forge. +1 attack upgrade continuing up. 2 gateways of Stats going to be finishing very shortly. The Spire drops down. All of these Adepts are going to move up into the main base, and they're actually going to get the Queen right away. Is there a recall here? Do you just fight this? I mean, I guess the Roaches aren't here just yet. They're about to have Roach speed, which will make this entire thing so much easier to handle. So this is 10 workers going down. So Stats finally finding damage with these Adepts. The Scarlett will attempt to move up into the Spire. Was that seen in this attack? It was. So if Stats was paying attention, he knows about that as well. These Adepts might just shade again. Now Roaches have speed though, so the Roaches get here much faster, and the Adepts will start to go down a lot quicker because of that. And Stats, yeah, this time he will just recall out of here. 13 workers killed in total though, and that was the only workers he's killed this game. Scarlett had a really good defense against these Adepts until now. And in a way, you look at this, and it was 10 Adepts traded out for the 13 drones. If you look at the income, you can see obviously Scarlett had been a little bit behind all this time, had just started to take an advantage. Now Stats is going to skyrocket ahead because not only is he killing workers, he's also forcing drones to pull off the mineral line to try and run away, and so a lot of income lost for Scarlett. That's where Stats picks up his first real advantage of all of this, and I say first real advantage, I say first big advantage perhaps, because again I think overall he's kept that worker count a little bit ahead, and that generally looks good for him. Pushing forward now onto the creep. We'll already take down a couple tumors. This is obviously nice, keeping Scarlett really pinned back. She's not been able to spread creep because of the Adept pressure until now. And now her first attempt of really getting creep out onto the map is shut down by this army. Balin Nest is going to be done soon for Scarlett as the +1 missiles continue. I mean, she is very Roach Ravager heavy, so it makes sense to be very, to be committing into a missile upgrade. As the Bane Nest comes up, we probably go from missiles into melee upgrades and into more of a Ling Bane focused style. And slowly, trading out this Roach Ravager army. I'd be surprised to see much more Roach Ravager produced in the game. Maybe much later on, if she's still stuck on kind of Ling Bane Ravager, then she'll add a few more here and there. But wouldn't expect her to want to add much to the Roach Ravager count at this point. It really should be about Banelings and Zerglings, melee upgrades, and all of those things, which just make... But it makes an Zerg army really kind of have potential into the later stages of the game. Roach Ravager alone against an Immortal Archon army gets shredded, but the way the Lings work tanking and the Banelings work to splash down some of the important units, it can work out as we see the meters were made. Only 5 of them at the moment. There's a little bit of stacked defense back at home from Stats, and against 5 meters, that should be enough. Now Scarlett will probably find an opening for a worker here or there. She actually finds this War Prism, which is a great start. pushes that away and gets rid of potential aggression, she will get the kill. So it's a nice start from the Mutalisks, and maybe that's partly what the Mutalisks are just here for, right? And especially if you only make 5. Just shutting down a prism, maybe a few probes along the way, just taking away some of the map control from stats. And some of the counterattacks that would stop Scarlett from really committing into fights that she might really want to try and take. So this Lingroach Ravager army will come all the way out over to the left-hand side. The Mutalisks still overhead. They're going to get this Adept a little bit low. Adept will go down. And a few probes from stats just going to transfer over towards the top side. Still this Roach Baneling Ravager army setting up. A few extra Banes on the way in. And a couple of Zealots just down the left. The Roaches and Ravagers pretty quick to take those down. The army of stats will be up around the top, and lots more units continue to produce here. +2 missiles coming up and the +1 melee. Hive is on the way as well. A couple of extra gates still building in the main. Yeah, I mean, Scarlett takes to the map, but she's not really finding a way to push in. It's Eternal Empire. It's very hard to find these fights, especially when stats takes this high ground 4th base. So you don't get this angled attack onto the low ground position. You kind of get, like, you know, maybe you come from this position in here, but that's also up a ramp into a choke point, right? It's just not the sort of area you want to fight in. Scarlett will try and make something happen by going a couple different directions. I like that. Mueller's take a dive forwards and take down the sentries that were warped in to defend this. And now she's going to backstab onto the top side, where there isn't really anything left defensively. Stats does have a recall available, though, and maybe he'll just recall there, but for the moment he'll be preoccupied with this fight. Ravager Power's dropping down and doing very well, but not really enough, because obviously Scarlett's got so much army on the top of the map, so she needs to get enough up to defend this. 72 Lings in production, and she will need a good portion of those to morph into Banelings, I think, to really help bust this army down. She did pull a few Roaches back, but she leaves some up. It's a 4th base for a 5th base. A few High Templars still chilling at the back as well. Mutas will help to take or chip away at this assimilator. A few Lings around the top still. A couple Stalkers taking some shots. Greater Spire continuing to build. Just going to see the Lings Ravager Bane from the bottom now. Storms all over the place. A lot of Lings being hit. Storms are very good, and there's still Storms available with the Immortal count as it is. Getting a lot of these Roach kills. And now stats reinforced with the Stalkers from across the map. The Mutalisks will not do much here. One Archon with the Mutalisks as well should be enough. And these few Roaches that came back home are getting caught by Zealots and Stalkers. They're also not trading very well. Now all the High Templar become Archons, so there's even more splash damage in the 4th base. Scarlett goes down. Stats may only be on 3 bases, but he's on an army that will keep pushing through. Scarlett doesn't have lava, and so she's actually floating 1.6k, 1k that she just can't spend. Her Greater Spire about to be done, and she just didn't last long enough before stats came across and killed her. And that's going to be her issue in this game. She was so close to getting to those Broodlords, and yet feels so very far. As 3rd hatchery now will start to go down. A couple of Immortals still coming through the Archon. First one picked off already. A couple more Crows of Bars. Oh, coming in. Flank forwards. I mean, Stats just knows he wants to clean this up. Stats just knows he can clean this up. That's exactly what will be happening. War Prism takes a few more fouls, and Stats picks up a game number 1 of this best of 5 series, going up 1-0 in the match and putting himself into a good lead. Obviously, always nice to pick up the first game, and in a fairly convincing game too. You know, a game where he wasn't really in a lot of trouble or a lot of pressure at any stage. Took slight leads and built those into the larger advantage to go through and win out in the end. Stats going to be leading 1-0 against Scarlett. Second map and leading 1-0 in the best of 5. In the bottom left, our red Protoss is Stats from the Afrika Freaks. And the top right, our blue Zerg from Bravestar Gaming is Scarlett. Everdream, the map, she definitely has some proxy builds that can work quite frequently. And already used it in the semi-finals against Zest, a proxy hatchery on the Rich Vespine and into a heavy Ravager count. As we do have the Probe of Stats on its way to the top right-hand side. Moving up toward the natural, and is going to get the hatchery block, even though Scarlett, well, She comes down, she sees it. She's actually going to start a gas first and then a pool. And I guess she's actually going to take that drone across the map and maybe go for the hatchery. So it looks as though she will go for something of a proxy. Of course, Stats is here like, okay, keep this blocked, keep this blocked. Eventually, he will go for a scout around and eventually check, and you'll see, oh, gas pool time. And gas, finishes at 105. And it's like, okay, well, that's an early gas. Actually, doesn't see the gas yet. Just trying to be annoying in the main base. You'll see it about... Oh, he still doesn't see the gas. Stats is a little blind to this, guys. And this is a different proxy from Scarlett. So she's going to proxy in the front here, which is generally the spine crawlers. And spine crawlers into the... Spine crawlers into, like, the Ling Flood afterward. I can't believe it. Stats knows about this gas, right? Am I being crazy? Like, he actually hasn't seen even drones returning the gas to the position just yet. Am I being crazy? I feel like he's right there, so he should know, but then I kind of don't think he does. His setup says he doesn't, isn't really responding to a proxy hatch at all, or an early gas. Now sees the Lings. I think this might be the first time Stats really realizes that these Lings are early in there. He doesn't really know the hatchery timing. And of course, he has no idea about the fact that this is a proxy hatch. So Stats is very blind as to what's going on. He didn't make a single unit here early, so no Zealots, which I don't think is the end of the world. Will now Chrono Boost out the Adept, which you do need. I can't... If he comes out the front, he checks, and now he sees the proxy hatch. This isn't good, though. There's going to be drones following this up because, again, Scarlett will build spine crawlers here and will get the creep tumor down to push the creep forward far enough to get the spines in range of the wall. And this is going to be a very delayed defense here from Stats. This is going to be not a lot at all. Obviously, the Lings coming up. Once the spine crawlers bust down, the Lings flood in. Robo Facility now drops, so he has one Adept, but he's just going to have no pressure onto these spine crawlers, right? So these spine crawlers are going to get up for free. This Adept actually commits there, gets a little bit surrounded, will start to go down and will fall. So the Adept will get picked off here. Stalker continue to Chrono Boost. A few more spines continuing up. The Lings coming in. Queen out the front. A creep tumor going to go down. I mean, the creep's already pretty much at the front, so the spines can get in range. This is really bad. The Lings just here for free. Obviously, losing the Adept kind of sucks, and now the spines are going to come forwards. And so Scarlett is just going to break down the front. There's no doubt about that. I don't think Stats is even going to finish Warp Gate. Using the shield batteries to heal up the gateway. Yeah, Stats did scout. He had no idea until way too late. Oh, he just assumed a hatchery was going to go down because he saw the drone. Scarlett did it right, She actually took the gas and took the pool, but sent the drone down at the right time to go like hatch first. So it was a bit of a mind game. I mean, Stats just didn't see anything in the main base, which is so funny because he was in the main base. Oh, those little probe micro tricks. I mean, that's one of those things you kind of lose to once and then never again in the same way, GG's, and Scarlett is going to tie it up just like that. The proxy hatch here in game 2 to make it a 1-1 scoreline. Third map, and it's tied 1-1 in this best of 5 finals. On the bottom right-hand side, our red Protoss player is Stats from the Africa Freaks. Taking on Bravestar Gaming's Scarlett. Third map, always important when it's 1-1, because now one of these players is about to go up onto match point for the first time and be one map away from winning out the tournament. Of course, the ESL Open Cups, $100 for first place, 10 ESL points, and 5 ESL points for second. What's actually interesting is just announced while we're actually casting this is the revamped version of the ESL Pro Tour system. They are actually going to be quadrupling the prize pool of every ESL Open Cup. So ESL Open Cups are going to be $400 per region per week, which is kind of a lot. So there's going to be now, I think, $200 first place, $100 second, and $50 third and fourth, which is actually really cool because I think it's always nice that third and fourth get some love as well. Look at Scarlett, goes gas pool again against the hatch block, and actually does just keep her drone out, and then will just take her normal hatchery this time. So Stats sees this, and obviously you've got to be a little bit worried. You see the gas up, and you're like, oh no, not again, right from the start once more. As the probe comes back up to the main, as the Nexus dropping down from Stats in the natural. So getting that Nexus started, we will have a probe ready to build a cybernetics quarter wall at the front. And the Overlord of Scarlett continuing across to the bottom right-hand side. Yeah, I mean, across the board, it's pretty regular from stats still. He did scout the hatch on the low ground, right? Yeah, so he knows it's not a proxy hatch. He knows it's just gas pool hatch, so you don't need to make this look weird at the start. But you do have to be careful of a lot of the attacks that could come your way in the near future. There's kind of an interesting wall-off because he's got a gap here, a gap here. I guess you go like a gateway or something here, but that gateway to wall off is going to have a lot of surface area on it. A lot of space for Zerglings to wrap around. And so in the form, in the case of a Ling Flood or so, that could be very abusable, perhaps. Scarlett will see this. I think this pylon's just a bit further forwards than usual, so let's see what the plan will be. Just going to be having the Adept shading down the bottom side. A couple of Zerglings of Scarlett running out over the left. The Warp Gate continuing. The Baneling Nest. So she is going to go for a Bane Burst. Honestly, I can get behind it because I'm looking at this wall off and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing this wall off being like that great. Really? Like I just don't see it, guys. I know I've said that like 3 times in a row. I'm just trying to think it through in my head. Well, let's see how it plays out as Twilight and the Robo come into the back here. So stats setting up to perhaps a Glaive opener once again. This time the Twilight much earlier than the Robo, though. Unlike what we talked about in game number 1, they came down at the same time. Might give us an indication as to whether that was a mistake or not. Okay, so in the Bane Bust scenario, it's just this gateway has like a lot of surface area on it, right? Which is definitely scary if you've got more of a Ling Flood. With the fact that a lot of Banes are being made, maybe that doesn't matter so much. The Adepts are going to have a shade out here, try and see what's up, and they will not see anything yet. As the Ling's going to come to the front, obviously move the Zerglings away. As the Banes don't actually get the Stalker right away. Will get the Gateway, though. But there's no follow-up for this pylon. Maybe if you'd been able to kill the Gateway with Ling pressure from the start, but then there's 3 units behind it, so probably not a possibility either, really. Shield Battery up will keep this Gateway alive, keep stats with a warp in available. Next Baneling from Scarlett goes off. This Gateway will fall, but the wall is still solid. The Sentry force fields itself in. Just obviously a little bit annoying because now you don't have a couple of gates to use. Stats will start an Immortal because he's going to miss a production cycle of warp-in, so he's got the money for an Immortal. Scarlett back in the front with these few Zerglings tapping away at the Sentry. It goes down. Adept taking a bit of damage as well. And these Banes continue forward. Shield Battery going to go back onto the pylon. Trying to keep these up, and it will keep these up. This second Shield Battery, what a hero. I mean, there's a full wall behind it, but it's just a few extra seconds that you buy. And Scarlett just do not think has enough here at all as the Lings come in. Another pylon kill, but again, the wall up and Immortal out. And obviously stats surviving on a 20-worker lead almost is going to be pretty great for him across the borders. Another gateway building in the natural. This Overlord of Scarlett coming down the right side will be looking out overhead. Resonating Glaives is on the Twilight Council. And the Zerglings already coming to the front is going to be able to deal a bit of damage to that Cybernetics core. Another few Banelings morphing in. 2 assimilators of stats on the natural as well. And just going to be having the Lings, Banes wanting to come forwards here. A few Banelings are going to go waddling in, so in they go towards this pylon. Force field drops down. Yeah, pylon saved, wall off saved. Stats gonna hold the final attempt from Scarlett and will go up 2-1 in this best of 5. Stats on match point here and looking to win, I believe, his first ever ESL Open Cup career. How about that? In the top right hand side, match point on his side, we do have the red Protoss player Stats taking on the blue Zerg in the bottom left. Cheesiness worked once in game 2. It didn't work twice. And Scarlett needs to win 2 back-to-back here, and absolutely can win longer ZVPs. We've seen her in a lot of longer ZVPs recently. In the semifinals of this, she won a 20-minute game off of Zest without anything super, aggressive happening early game. So she has that ability. As the stats probe shows up again and will once more hatch block here. As they're in plenty of time, Scarlett just runs straight past. Will again go for, well, the pool gas first. So still goes for that. I mean, if you think about it in the course of the series, right, this is very scary from stats' perspective because you never quite know, is this going to be 3 bases? Is this going to be, you know, gas pool? Is this going to be a cheese off of this? Is this going to be a hatchery still? You can see Scarlett hides this drone. Stats has to go check the main base now. And Scarlett will just expand on her own natural. So she just does not want to take this third hatchery over here. Especially if you go pool gas and you already slow down your own eco a little bit. You really do want that hatchery in the natural. Because otherwise transferring the workers across becomes an issue. And Stats, again, maybe a little worried, but now sees the hatchery on the natural. Shouldn't be too much of a problem as the probe comes in and has a little bit of a tase on the extractor. Queen building in the main base, the hatchery on the natural expansion, a couple of extra Zerglings still producing. As we do see the Nexus on the natural. Cybercore is about halfway done. 2 Zerglings coming up. Queen building. And just going to be seeing Scarlett. Going to be overhead in a few moments' time. You can see her just getting a full look at the front and a full look to see just what's going on in the early stages. Well, Adept will be continuing out, so it's just going to be first Adept and then maybe just into the Stalker, get the defense against the Overlord being at the front here, of course. Nice to stop that Overlord realistically just getting straight through to the main base for info. Adept will have to pull back to deal with the couple of lings. Warp Gate already started, so it looks like Stats is going to go for Twilight Council again. And as the lings commit in, we'll not go for it just yet. First probe will be saved. And the Twilight Council drops down just as that Zergling dies. Scarlett doesn't get to see it. Twilight Council begins, and Stats will, again, I think, just go for a Glaives Opener. Seems to be his wanting, you know, the build he wants to go to here time after time. That, or he just goes for Dark Shrine, just so that every time I say he's going to go Dark Shrine, he goes Glaives, and then every time I say he goes Glaives, he'll go Dark Shrine. You know, I think Stats just likes to mess with me a little bit. Let's see, though. As we do have the Twilight just going to be finishing up here. So Twilight getting completed. The Robo Facility still coming along nicely. Warp Gate on the Cybercore. And a couple of links of Scarlett will go running into the upper right-hand side. Resonating Glaives upgrade already on the Twilight as well, as a couple of gates will drop. And yeah, Robo just going to finish up to wall here as well. So it's just going to be Glaives the choice. You can understand when I said like the Twilight and the Robo building at the same time earlier was a bit weird. Back in game number 1, I really feel like I want vindication for this. Because this time the Twilight does build much sooner. It starts Glaives and the Robo was still building, so... And maybe it's just to do with the timing of the map even and like the rush distance to get across. That's something to keep in mind as well, right? That it takes a different time to get across each of these maps. Didn't mention that earlier on. Anyways, Rotoron building up. The lair is on the way in the main base. Third hatchery of Scarlett is already... well underway and going to be finished up very soon. There's a little bit of this creep spread just continuing to push in from Scarlett, so that will be going out the front. And the Warp Prism of Stats will go down to the bottom left. So the Warp Prism coming over, a few of these Adepts inside. Queen going to drop an inject onto the hatchery as, again, the Adepts will just unload and a few more Adepts will warp in. It's going to be only 7 Adepts here. Did we just miss an Adept early? Did one die? No, I think that's just missed an Adept in his build order. Usually it's 8 Adepts that come through from the start. This time, not going to be the case. Observer for the high ground vision, and Stats will deny the Overlord. As more Adepts warp in, and the pressure builds on the front of Scarlett's third base. Roach is starting to come up. She's very quick to enter the Roach speed this time, and I feel like she was quite slow to Roach speed last game. The Roach speed then allows you to get on top of those Adepts a lot faster. When I say the last game, I'm talking about Eternal Empire. We've had 2 very cheesy games since then. But the last game that this happened. But yeah, the Roach speed will really allow you to get onto those Adepts faster, and that means you get into position more easily. And it really begins to be a bit more of a shutdown. Scarlett's starting to sneak a couple of these drones up. Plenty of Adepts wandering through, and they're going to threaten that shade, the third base. No drones, so you might take some damage on the hatchery, but... that's something which is manageable. You know, you trade out a bit of hatch HP for being safe and not letting the Adept shade through. Not even that much damage, really. Another attempt from the Adepts. The Observer showing up, though, will be able to clean out some of the creep spread. meaning that you're not able to really keep as much control here as Scarlett, and it really keeps her pinned back inside of 3 bases coming out of this adept pressure. Adepts will cancel the shade once again, with the Forge now in the main base of stats, already building the Immortal about to pop. And a second Immortal building too. Definitely feels like we could have a bit of a push coming up at some point. Stats about to have a Forge, so maybe +1. Couple Immortals, all the Adepts going across the map could definitely get some damage done or so. Queen dealing a couple shots of damage. A few Roaches coming out the front will go chasing those Adepts down. Picks off one of them already. The Baneling Nest will finish in the back of the main. And the other Adepts just getting pushed back here, so doing a good job of it. Adepts in the center, just going to be seeing a couple of gateways from stats on the right side. Adepts already shading down toward the third base. Going to go for a bit of a threat, but of course Scarlett's in position, so stats doesn't commit. But all of these Adepts are going to get out alive, so never deals any worker damage this time around. That's +1 stars. Was actually a little slow on Storm, +1 off the back of the Forge finishing, but +1 blink on the way, so they should finish around the same time here. And that may be the time when stats wants to move out and get aggressive. Scarlett on 58 workers is making a lot more Zerglings here, rather than just a big round of workers. So perhaps looking to be aggressive off +1 melee and Bane's speed. Yeah, Scarlett is going to be aggressive, coming across the map, looking to fight very soon. The extra Bane's just setting up the Ling Roach Ravager on the far right-hand side. We do have stats with the Adept Stalker Immortal army coming down the front to push forward a little bit. Zerglings already coming in. A few Banelings trying to come in. Corrosive Vials picking away at a lot of the force fields. Bane's come crashing into this, and stats splitting backwards. But he does have a lot of Immortals here, and a lot of Immortals that are dealing good damage across these Roaches. A few Corrosive Vials pick off a Shield Battery, I think. Nothing too major, though. +1 melee will be done soon, as the extra army from Scarlett getting ready to press forward. Yeah, Scarlett's very all in though. 58 drones. She's probably not going to go into +2 melee either. This is really just do or die. If you're sitting on the same work account as the Protoss, you just have no tech beyond this either. Let's see. There's these Immortals in the front. Well, they are actually abandoned, but the Warp Prism can save them. And that was needed as the Stalkers went blinking backward. A few Stalkers getting Corrosive Vials here. A couple of Banes do sneak in the mineral line, but only 4 probes for the moment, so it's not that bad. And you can see Scarlett's army is falling apart a bit, and this is going to be an inefficient trade. You can see the resources lost. And that's why for a longer game with this sort of composition, you would need to have more workers, right? And that's why this is so all in to kind of sit at 58 drones, because being on the same amount of workers means you don't have more economy, means you can't trade badly, which means this army composition just doesn't work, because this army composition is meant to trade badly. That's how it works. Stalkers and Immortals continuing forwards. Sentry's just going to continue to warp in. Lings coming for a bit of a wraparound. I mean, the force field has only just got to go off. The Sentries didn't last very long at all. As the Roaches, though, they just don't really have that great a set of numbers. When you consider these Stalkers have the blink to get on top of them too, and the Immortals are still here. 23 kills on one, 17 on another, then 12, then 8. They have been huge parts of this Protoss army to defend, and now Scar's going to run down, but you can just see the numbers are not enough. She does snipe the Prism with the Corrosive Vials. Means stats can't save these Immortals anymore. Means stats can't micro. Means stats can't retreat, reinforce. Unfortunately, I don't think it matters. There's just too many units here anyways, as stats is going to take game number 4 and is going to wrap up this finals 3-1, winning the ESL Open Cup career number 18. GG's for stats. And of course, if you enjoyed the video on YouTube, do hit the like button. Consider letting us know what you think down below in the comments. And do subscribe as we continue to work our way to the 20,000 YouTube subscriber mark. Thank you so much for all the help on that. And I'll see you guys next time on the YouTube channel. Remember, video uploaded here every single day, some of the best from the stream as well as some of the YouTube only casts. GG's and thanks for watching.